This is Athletes as Educators with former pro basketball player, championship winning coach, and author Angela R. Lewis. Angie Lewis interviews current and former athletes who are passionate about sharing the lessons they've learned and the experiences that have shaped their lives. A resource for parents, a guide for student athletes, a source for current and former athletes, keys to transition off the court. Welcome to the Athletes as Educators podcast with Angela R. Lewis.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Athletes as Educators podcast. We are at segment number 4 for today, and this segment is all about philanthropy. And we know that there are so many great causes out there, and there are so many people who are current and former athletes and sports professionals who are doing great work in their communities. And oftentimes these stories go untold, or people just are doing the work and they don't take time to really talk about the great things that they're doing. And so we want to be able to highlight people who are doing great work in the communities. There are a number of athletes who've started nonprofits, and this episode today is a recap with Sam Sesay. Sam is a former NCAA Division I All-American track athlete, and he's really passionate about helping young people create a game plan for life. So Sam created a nonprofit called Game Plan Inc., and he also founded the Future Leaders and Young Entrepreneurs program, where his main focus is creating and directing young people to learn about social entrepreneurship while at the same time understanding about business. And that's a really rare combination. So his nonprofit goes into schools and they run after school programs, and they're in the DC area and they're growing and they're looking to really use sports to help students transition and plan for their lives. So I love this conversation with Sam. As you can hear, he's extremely serious about helping students come up with a game plan. And his mission is to assist these student athletes with strategies to be in first place. And first place is an acronym that sets students up for success and let them really own their futures. So check out this interview with Sam Sesay. And if you're in the DC area, you want to connect with him, you can check out the show notes as well in iTunes. And you can find all Sam's contact info. As you know, if you want to chat with me, you can hit me up on Twitter at Angie_R_Lewis. On Instagram, it's the same thing. On Facebook, Angie R. Lewis, or check out the Global Athlete Media Network's Facebook page. Enjoy the info. Enjoy the conversation with Sam. Talk to you later. Will you talk a little bit more about the nonprofit, why you started it?
Sure. Well, being a former athlete, you always see so many kids, so many athletes who put all their eggs in one basket. They focus just on sports and never really build any outside skills outside of their sport. So when it comes down to it, when the clock hits zero, when their career is over, playing career is over, they have nowhere to go. They have no direction, and, they really have no skills. So, they're faced with a harsh reality that, the world is real. Like, they're no longer the big man on campus. They're no longer the superstar athlete. Now they have to be an employee. And a lot of them, really have a hard time adjusting to that. So which was the reason why I started Game Plan Inc. to really prepare these athletes for life after sports, to give them different life skills and different things that they can learn about themselves. So when, their career is over, they can capitalize on that and really use it, really focus on using the lessons that they've learned through sports, that same drive that they had playing sports, the same work ethic that they had playing sports, to, translate that and transfer that to, something else that they are passionate about.
That is a really big problem. There are so many athletes who struggle with their transition. So kudos to you for being a solution to this problem and deciding to start something that's going to help so that they can have more opportunities in life beyond sports. Will you talk a little bit deeper about how your program works?
Yeah, so we partner with different high schools where we work with the athletic director, we work with the principal, and really pitch the idea of game plan, and we offer game plan free of charge to public schools, where we provide different workshops throughout the year. So we call our programming First Place Programming. And when I say first place, it's actually an acronym. So our programming revolves around personal development, which would cover a range of topics such as, time management, decision making. Then we also have the L, which stands for leadership development, where we do a lot of different leadership workshops. Then we have athletic excellence, where we do focusing on helping them in terms of like health and wellness, proper nutrition, weight management, different things like that, different supplements to take. Then we do college prep to really prepare them for college and show them that while your coach can help you get into college, that you need to be able to market yourself to get into college. Like, don't depend on your coach, because your coach is busy. Your coach has so many different responsibilities. So we teach them how to find colleges that match their different criterias, and go after that and market themselves. And then we do entrepreneurship training through community service. Kind of, I know Donald Trump is big right now, but it's kind of like the show Apprentice, where the student athletes will partner with a local organization and work on a real life project for them. So, for example, we just completed a partnership with an organization that collects socks for the homeless. So kids learn about entrepreneurship through running their own sock campaign, where they learned about marketing, they learned about public speaking, they learned about different entrepreneurship skills, and they collected socks, and then we in turn donated those socks to the homeless in DC.
That is phenomenal. I love how thoughtful you all were in crafting the program. The one piece that I don't hear often with athletes that's tremendous is that entrepreneurship piece. Why did you feel that it was important to integrate entrepreneurship?
Well, I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, and I always, from little kid, from selling bracelets at track meets to selling clothes in high school. So I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So what happened was I started a business with my sister a couple years after I graduated college, and the business kind of started struggling a little bit. So I decided I wanted to gain a better entrepreneurship foundation. So I went to school and got my master's in entrepreneurship from Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And while in Dallas and while in grad school, I realized, like, wow, this information is so critical to anyone, that entrepreneurship isn't really taught on a high school level, on a college level. But if kids can grasp this at a younger age, they can be successful.
It's important, especially if you haven't been exposed to a lot of people who are entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
And I think that athletes in many ways have learned and been trained how to be disciplined. And entrepreneurship is a natural path for so many athletes. You look at people like Magic Johnson, who obviously amassed a lot of wealth playing sports, but then has used that to create this additional brand.
Exactly.
Will you talk a little bit about athletes and the influence that athletes have on culture? We all play sports, and we all had a voice that was heard simply because we played sports. How important is it to be able to leverage that to create positive change?
It is very important, just because athletes reach so many different people that a regular person like you and I cannot reach. Just recently, Michael Jordan has just talked about finally he's not being silent, that he's donating $2 million to support the cause for the Black Lives Matter movement, and police killing young African American men. So just him voicing that opinion is going to get other people excited about it and passionate about it and wanting to help out. But if I would have just made that stance and say, hey, I'm going to support X, Y, and Z, and that Black Lives Matter, I might only reach maybe 1,000 people tops. But just him saying that has just spread out to everyone, and it's on CNN, it's on the news, everyone is talking about it, just because he's one of the best athletes ever, and if he's passionate about it and he's bringing that to light, other people are going to hear about that too and want to some way help out.
Absolutely. Recently, similarly, a little different, but similarly, a lot of players in the WNBA had a media blackout, right? They used to talk to the media about anything other than social justice issues. What was your thoughts about that? Because I thought that was brilliant, actually. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that the unity and the drastic measures that people have to take to really get this notice, that it's really by any means necessary, because I mean it's too many murders happening that is unexplainable. Something needs to get done. So the stand that they're making is just really, hopefully, work out in a positive way to really get this out there that people are more aware of it and want to help out in some way.
And having the media as a platform to do that is essential. I think though, there are only a handful of athletes who play professionally, right? Like the stats show that most people aren't going pro. But
Right.
nevertheless, there are still so many athletes who want to have an impact. What's your advice to some people who have seen everything that's going on in the world, who are former athletes who are saying, you know what, like I want to do something? What's your advice on getting started?
Just do it. I mean, just like Nike says, you might not have that reach of a Michael Jordan or a reach of a Carmelo Anthony who's speaking out as well, but you have former teammates, you have former people that looked up to you while you were an athlete that you can reach out to and start a campaign or start something to get it out there because everyone is connected to somebody. Whether it's just supporting a larger organization or starting your own or picketing or walking or writing about it, blogging about it, whatever it may be. Just do it. Don't let your situation or your fear really prevent you from doing something that you feel passionate about.
Sam, you're absolutely right. A lot of times we spend time thinking and thinking. Sometimes you just have to go out there and start moving and you'll figure it out along the way. You mentioned that you and your sister started a business a few years out of college, and there were some things you learned that prompted you to go back and learn more. What are some of those learnings that you can offer?
I missed the last part.
What are some of those things that you learned? What are some of the lessons that you learned that you can offer advice to others who are interested in starting, whether it's a nonprofit or a business?
Start small. Focus on one great product, and make sure you master that one great product or that one great service. Don't always try to be a jack of all trades because you're not really gonna have that certain niche. So start small, focus on that one product, and once you master that one product, grow on to bigger and better things. Once you made that name for yourself, and are comfortable enough to add additional features or products or whatever.
Something that happens often with people who are entrepreneurial is you have so many ideas.
Exactly.
Being able to bottle those ideas is challenging.
Exactly. And I mean, it is a challenge. Just being, a former athlete, you're super competitive. You feel that you can do anything. You learn how to, master the jump shot. You learn how to, catch the ball one-handed. You can do all these great things, but something, in life is not that easy. And just, even though you did master that jump shot, took a lot of practice. You didn't just automatically just become a great shooter, just like you're not automatically going to become a great entrepreneur just from the jump.
Sam, that is such a great point because oftentimes once you've been doing something for so long, it becomes second nature and you just think that you've always been that good, right?
Exactly.
But when you think about in the third grade, when you can make a layup to save your life,
right?
We have to apply the same mindset to when we first starting out in business or starting nonprofits.
Exactly.
Speaking of that, what are some challenges that you face and how have you overcome them?
Challenges. Had a lot of different challenges. From starting that business back then, losing a whole bunch of money and really having big hopes and dreams of taking over the world and becoming a multimillionaire in my business, and that not working, and it really that's what led me to go back to school and really gain that foundation. Really, just really about focusing on continuous education, continually learning. Times are changing, technologies are changing, the industries are changing. So just making sure that I've kept abreast of everything and continually trying to better myself.
There are you made a great point about times are changing, things are changing, and being a continuous learner. What would you say are the most important skills that current athletes who are in college who will be graduating soon, what do they need to know or be able to do once they enter the workforce?
I would say like a lot of the things that they learn in sports, just let that apply. So first of all, being a hard worker, coming in to work on time, and if it's a 30-minute lunch, take that 30-minute lunch. Don't take an hour lunch. And just proving yourself, just like if you're a role player or you're a bench player and you're trying to become a starter. So just like when you enter a new job, you might be the sixth man, or you might be 14th off the bench or whatever, but having that attitude like you're the underdog and having that underdog mentality and taking that to the workforce and just working hard to really move up. So from being that sixth man to being a starter, to being an all-star, to being all NBA or whatever you want to call it in your field. um, then also just being able to tell your story, really being able to communicate, because I feel that right now a lot of jobs you get hired based upon what you can sell, how you can sell yourself. So just being able to really sell yourself and being able to tell your story, and how you could really benefit an organization and be an asset to an organization.
Sales is the most important part of business, right? You have to be able to sell. And
Right.
oftentimes athletes are used to people coming up to them, asking
Right.
them questions and desiring them. The fact that you said you have to be able to sell your story is huge. I think that's tremendous. And being able to speak. So we're talking about communicating effectively, being one of
Correct.
the key skills that athletes need to have.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we learn as athletes is being a part of a team, and we all had coaches who were mentors. Who are
Mm-hmm.
some people that mentored you, and what's some of the best advice that you've received?
Well, growing up, I had a high school coach who's well known throughout the track world. He's actually his name is Larry Colbert. He was my high school coach, and he was my summer track coach, and just revered from everyone. Like everyone loves him. And what I learned from him is that to be a leader, you don't have to yell. You don't have to, be aggressive with anyone. You just have to be yourself and really just gain that trust of your athletes, and really just show empathy and show sympathy from them. And from there you'll gain the athlete's respect. It doesn't call the hooting and hollering. Just do what you're supposed to do, and gain that respect. Where you know I can't remember no athlete, any of the athletes he's coached, all Americans, state champions, just national champions, and I can't remember not one athlete that really ever disrespected him, because we revered him so much and respected him so much. So when I became a coach, I coached for about 4 years. I took that same concept, that same things that I learned from him, and apply that to life. That if you respect them, they'll respect you in return.
Having that respect matters. That's essential, especially when you talk about dealing with conflict. There's a lot of young athletes who don't know how to handle conflict well.
Mm-hmm.
What how do you best help them deal with handling conflict, whether it's with a teammate or a coach or someone else?
I feel that you always got to have to explain the big picture.
Mm.
That you have to think outside of yourself and just sit back, away from the situation. Just feel how it's going to affect the team. If you're being disrespectful to your teammates, or if you're being disrespectful to your coaches, how's that going to affect the team? It's not going to have You're not going to have a good culture. So winning is all about having that proper winning culture, that proper relationship with your coaches and your teammates, and just building that camaraderie. So if you don't have that, you're already losing the battle. So really just showing them that each one is dependent on you, and everyone needs to be all on one accord.
Building that camaraderie and teamwork is really important. Now, in track, sometimes there are individual events and team events.
Right.
Events that you run, and how do you balance that, being an individual and being a part of the greater team?
Right. So yeah, like in track, it's a beautiful sport just because you can be an individual, but then you also can be, part of a team, part of a relay, part of trying to go for a team championship. With me, even though it was an individual sport, now of course I love to win individually. There's nothing greater than sharing it with your teammates. Really, accomplishing that one goal that you guys set out to do. So I always was pro team. I always wanted to be part of a winning team, and being able to motivate each other to reach our goals and try to win a team championship. We're trying to win, a relay, a 4x1 or a 4x4. I was always pro team and always enjoyed winning a relay rather than winning an individual event.
The timing of relays is crazy because the handoff has to be perfect in
Yeah,
to to continue to have a chance.
right.
How much time is spent actually getting in unison and building that connection with your teammates?
Every practice, pretty much. I, I equate a lot of stuff to life and
Mm-hmm.
track. I'm actually working on a book about that, about the life lessons I learned through track. But side note, that was just a side note,
No.
extra nugget. But but yeah, just building that trust takes so much time. So you have to continue practice and practice and practice and practice because um, in a 4x1, for example, you never want to look back to get the baton. You want to have that trust that when I say stick, I just put my hand back and you're gonna be there.
Wow.
You have to have that trust. So you have to have that trust when your runner gets to the tape that you run and that you're gonna get the baton in time. That you're not gonna drop the baton. That the batons are going to be seamless around the track. So it takes a lot of practice. We spend a lot of hours after practice really working on baton practice. So just building that trust in between, because that's so important. Just like in track, it's important in any relationship you have, any teammate or any coworker. Building that trust is always important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that timing has to be impeccable.
Exactly.
Off. It has to be impeccable. Let's talk about your book.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so just from doing game plan, it really built up, and I realized I had a gift of creating curriculum and creating concepts that can be easily relatable. Um, and then it brought me back to all the life lessons I learned through track that really prepared me for life in the career world. So I said that as an athlete, you became successful because you had a first place mindset. So it ties along with our first place programming. But having that first place mindset, you did whatever it took to be first place. Whether you ran extra hills after practice, you did the whirlpool after practice, you ate right, you did everything that you needed to do to be first place. So you need to transfer that same first place mindset to your career. So, being first one in for work, being the last one out, doing whatever it takes to really be successful in your career, working hard, manage your time effectively, being a good teammate, being a good leader. Um, I talk about in track where you have to stay in your lane, um,
Mm-hmm.
or you get disqualified. So you don't want to get disqualified from your race. Your race and being in whatever race that you're running in the work first or in your career or as an entrepreneur, you have to stay in your lane and you can't focus on who's to the left or to the right of you. You have to run the race that was given to you and just focus on yourself and focus on that finish line and don't look back, because once you look back you start losing momentum. So those are the different things that I have in my book. I'm almost finished it. I just need to do some editing and get somebody to look over it, and hopefully, it'll sell a little bit. But it's talking about, creating that first place mindset, the life lessons I learned through track.
That's awesome. When do you have a release date set?
I don't. Just finished the logo for First Place Mindset, and yeah, I'm kind of scared about letting it, releasing it to the world. You actually
Yeah.
haven't really told anybody about it yet. Kind of under wraps right now, but
Exclusive?
exclusive. You heard it here first. But yeah, so definitely I'm working on finishing that, and I'll be doing some other books as well in the future. I want to, really latch on to this book writing thing, and I'm not saying I'm an author, but really I'll be doing some children's book series as well, having talking about different life skills that little kids can learn through sports that they can apply to life. Like the first one I'm thinking about is about a kid who's very talented but doesn't listen to the coaches, so he rides the bench even though he's like the most talented player. So it talks about listening to your leaders, and learning your playbook, and being a student of the game. No matter how good you are, if you are not a student of the game, you're not going to get in. So that applies to life. So
it does. That's so true, and it's exciting. It's exciting that you're writing books, because I think more people, especially athletes, need to share their stories. So I
exactly.
a couple of years ago called the Game Changing Assist, really similar to your concept, just
Nice.
basketball concepts to
Nice.
life lessons. And I think that there are so many people with amazing stories,
Nice.
and their stories should be heard.
Mm-hmm.
What are some books that have had an impact on your life? What are some books that have had an impact on your life?
Of course, I don't want to get too holy, but of course the Bible. Of course the Bible. Because I felt you need to have that moral compass to really do things right, and do right by people. So first and foremost is that. Then I read. I like the start, the art of the start.
Okay.
Definitely love that book. Just really focusing on starting something. People talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, but really starting something. Those are like the two books that that's like my bread and butter.
The Art of the Start. Who's the author?
I think it's Guy Kawasaki.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm going to write that down.
Cool.
No, that's really exciting. Sam, I want to go back a little bit to gameplay and talk about your big vision. It sounds like you'll be developing more curriculum, you're writing books, you want to impact more lives. What's your really big vision?
Right now, we'll this upcoming school year we'll be in schools in the Maryland, D.C., and Virginia area. So the vision is to be be on a national level, where we're inspiring student athletes all over the country to really pursue their dreams outside that don't revolve sports. Whether they're doing engineering, they want to be artists, or they want to be chefs, whoever. We're starting a series called "What's Your Game Plan?" where we it's going to be like a YouTube series where we partner different youth with entrepreneur, former athlete that they aspire to be. So the first episode that we'll be showing probably next month is a young man that wants to become a chef. So we had a cooking session with a guy, a close friend of mine, Chef T, who used to play college football, played a little bit in the NFL and Canadian Football League, and now he's literally a celebrity chef. He's a chef to a lot of professional athletes and celebrities, and he just talked about his path and his journey, and we had a session where he taught one of the kids, Jahar, in my program, how to make seafood lasagna.
Nice.
So they've kept that relationship, and now he's his mentor, and hopefully he can show him the ropes and help him out to become a chef one day.
That's phenomenal. Like that's how you really change lives. That exposure makes a difference, and then that hands-on experience. I mean,
Right.
that is the exact way to help kids really move beyond what they think is possible.
Right.
Now that's
Absolutely.
now if people want to learn more about Game Plan Inc., if they want to volunteer and get involved, how can they do that? How can they reach you?
Right. So they can go online to www.gameplaninc.org. So gameplaninc.org, and we have a volunteer form on there. And then we also have a contact us page, of course, so they can fill out the volunteer form. They can donate. We have a donate button on every single page, and they can help out in a variety of ways. We have different guest speakers that we would like the kids to be introduced to, different professional people that we would like the kids to be introduced to, different events that we'd like to host, and different things that can. We have a lot of ways someone can get involved. Absolutely.
No, it sounds amazing. And you're just in the Northeast for now, right? Maryland, D.C., Virginia.
Correct. Well, hopefully we'll be next school year, 2017, 2018 school year. We should be in more areas with different contacts that I have, and hopefully, more people use the donate button on our pages that they can help us to inspire student athletes all over the country and help them score big in life.
Sam, thank you so much for joining me today. I mean, I wish you the best with Game Plan Inc. I wanted to keep tabs on you and your books when they
Yes.
and so definitely want.
I got to get your book too.
Absolutely.
Got to get your book too. I'll get that information from you.
Yep, I'll be sure to send it.
Awesome.
It's so important that people support each other and that we share our stories more because the kids need to hear it.
Sounds good.
All right, Sam, thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.